built a little bit, but good morning, Patriots. Welcome back for another episode of the Bald Brad Show. We are a conservative podcast that goes over all the major headlines that you need to know about in a way that's holistic and that you are prepared for whatever podcast you go into later in the day, whether you're going memes, meaning sleepy bye later this evening. At least you have the gist of what is happening around you, not just here domestically, but also with foreign affairs. And we're going to break it all down for you. Before we do that, though, can you make sure you head over to baldbrad.com? Again, that's baldbrad.com. It looks like this. I will put the link in the description. We have a blog, we have a book, we have a store, and we have an option up here at the top right if you feel like you need to, because Bruce and Pat dropped some big moolah yesterday to the donation tab up there at the top. We get 97% of the money that comes into the Bald Brad Show through my website. I made it. Appreciate if you use it. Don't feel like you have to, but it is there for you. Also, we have a book called Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. You're seeing it in real time. It is happening. And that is the theme of today's episode on the fight for power. Who is actually in control and who really runs America? Is it really Donald Trump? Is it the judicial branch? Is it the Supreme Court? Is it the Democrats? That's what we have to figure out today. But you will get a lot of answers to a very similar question in my book, Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. You're seeing it happen in real time, not just for our country, but all around the world. Those ideologies are very much crippling and could tear this country apart, and to the point where you cannot mend it again. Once that social fabric is torn all the way across, there is no going back. So make sure you check out Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. Also, it is the holiday season, folks. Oh boy, is it the holiday season. You got to go get the merch. I wear the merch. You got to wear the merch. We have a mug. We're a morning show. If my store wants to open up and not embarrass me right now. We have some merchandise that you can get. You can always have a nice cup of coffee with us in the morning, or tea, or whatever you drink. Sometimes you get a little bit feisty before Dark MAGA. That's every Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you start drinking a little bit in the morning. Hey, whatever's going to cut the edge and make life a little bit easier for you. That is always not recommended, but totally get the need for kind of a little bit of a wowzer sauce in the morning, if you know what I'm saying. All righty, let's jump into the news. We're going to be breaking down here the Supreme Court case. We got a little bit of ICE in the news as well, meaning immigrations and customs enforcement. We have Mamdani in the news. We have Scott Jennings in the news. We got a lot of stuff going on in the news. So we're going to make sure we bring all of that to you. Just need to make sure that our channel is actually up and running on YouTube really quick, because the commies over there that are in line with Mamdani don't like what we have to say because, well, we hold conservative values that goes against their narrative. That's why. It's pretty plain and simple. So I think we are populated on Kick. We're going to make sure we're populated on YouTube. We're populated on Rumble. Let's do it, baby. All righty. So the Supreme Court hears Donald Trump's tariff case, right? And this tariff case is a big deal to Donald Trump. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a big deal to me, but Donald Trump said it's the most important, case in the last 100 years, however you want to feel that way. But what you can say is it could define America's economic future, that's for sure. And it would basically reshape executive authority, and it would decide whether the president of the United States has the power to protect American workers in the face of foreign exploitation. And the last part is key. So this case is Learning Resources, Inc. v. Donald Trump at the center of one question. And that question here regarding this tariff case is, does the president have the authority to impose broad tariffs to defend American industry, American workers, and American national security? So that's kind of the main question that they're looking at here. So 7 businesses are challenging Trump's tariffs, and they're arguing that he overstepped presidential authority by imposing widespread tariffs on imported goods. These tariffs, mind you, were central to Trump's trade policy. Tariffs that helped bring manufacturing back here to the United States. It strengthened steel and auto production. And mind you, it forced China to renegotiate trade terms for the first time in decades. So even though Donald Trump's trying to do something good here, we all know how this works because he had his first term and then they also like to beat him up everywhere else. They just don't like the guy. And because he's doing something good and they weren't the ones that thought of it, well, now they got to bash him. So let's just lay out the facts here so everyone's prepared of what the heck's going on with this case. Trump imposed 2 categories of tariffs. The first one that you've heard a lot of was a general 10% tariff on a broad range of imported goods. And this was just to address basically the trade deficit and the decline in the industrial base. It's like, okay, hey, we're just going to do like a blanket tariff. But then he also did the targeted tariffs, and he did that with China, Canada, Mexico are some examples. And this was tied to kind of a broad security measure to stop the flow of drugs and illegal goods. At least that was his reasoning for doing it. It wasn't necessarily because there was a trade deficit. That was one variable, but then he attached that to a targeted tariff because of the security of stopping the flow of drugs and illegal goods. So the plaintiffs are arguing that tariffs are taxes, which truthfully is actually right. It is basically a tax. I'd be lying to you guys if I said otherwise. It really is. And only Congress, though, can levy taxes. So this is what they're doing with these words. Well, tax here, tax there, tax everywhere. They say the law Trump used was the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And we have talked about it here on the show. And I said that Donald Trump is going to have some legal issues with this. I did say it. And I even said, and I might bite my tongue if I'm wrong here because the Supreme Court's going to rule on it. I said I think Donald Trump might lose this one. So it doesn't specifically mention tariffs in the IEEPA, by the way. Could run into some legal issues, and that's why he's at the Supreme Court right now, because he is. Do I want him to win? I actually don't know. I haven't really meditated on that much. It's a great question in the chat. I don't know if I want him to win. The reason why is because if you get a psycho like Mamdani, who Bernie Sanders is saying is the face of the Democrat Party, just let you know, we haven't gotten there yet. Mamdani, the guy that is the mayor, has never ran anything in his life, is basically a Nepo baby. He's now the face of the Democrat Party. Bernie Sanders said he is the leader of the Democrat Party. Can you imagine that guy being given power over tariffs? Yes. But the Trump administration has argued that the IEEPA gives the president broad power during declared emergencies. The trade deficit and the collapse of U.S. manufacturing are a national emergency. The border and drug crisis, rather, if you could forgive my typo, is absolutely a national emergency. And therefore, because of those 3 reasons, and it's a strong case by the president has the authority to act. So that's what the Trump administration is arguing. And they're both sides have very, very, very good arguments here. That's why I'm like, I don't know if he's going to win or not. Let me tell you something. Presidents, though, in the past, for decades, I will say, have used the IEPA. Democrats and Republicans have used it. And they did so to impose sanctions. They froze assets. They restricted trade and blocked foreign financing. Trump didn't invent this idea of using emergency powers. He simply used them to protect America, not weaken it. That is key, not weaken it. I know Democrats wish that would have happened because they're crazy, but he didn't. Now, the court's questions were very telling yesterday when they were hearing the arguments. So here's a couple things I got for you. A little goodies, a little wowzer sauce in the coffee. I don't know why I keep saying wowzer sauce. I don't know. That's a good question as well. A lot of questions here. So we have Brett Kavanaugh called out the absurdity of saying a president can block all trade, but somehow can't impose a 1% tariff. Good point, Brett. Brett Kavanaugh said this, quote, "Your interpretation would allow the president to shut down all trade, but not allow a 1% tariff? That doesn't seem to have a lot of common sense behind it." Exactly. So if a president can sanction entire nations, why would a small tariff be where the line is magically appearing? I think everybody agrees with Brett Kavanaugh on this one because we're a lot of common sense people in the chat and here on the Ball Brad Show. Look, we're not savants. I'm not saying a lot of us are super smart. Maybe we are. Hell, I don't know. I'm definitely not. Great question, Brett. But then you had Justice Neil Gorsuch raise a cautionary concern. He asked whether siding with Trump would allow a future president to say, quote, I'm declaring climate change an emergency. Now imposing a 50% tariff on gas-powered cars. Gee, it's almost like Brad said he's a little worried if somebody like Mamdani, who is utilizing the law in New York City to make landlords redo their apartment buildings to the tune of $60,000 to $125,000 to be more environmentally friendly, basically. I don't think about now. I think about in the future if I want some psycho like Mamdani or Gavin Newsom to have that kind of power in 2028. Folks, I'll be honest, not really. Now, it'd be different if I trusted my fellow countrymen and women to vote correctly, and I'm not even saying that they can't vote Democrat, but you're voting in these weirdos like Mamdani, who's a full-blown socialist, I would say even borderline communist. That doesn't give me much hope. So, once again, Neil Gorsuch is correct. And that's a fair question by him, and as well as Justice Kavanaugh. Because we all know Democrats love using the word emergency to justify power grabs. They called COVID an emergency. They used it to shut down your business and your church while allowing riots and TikTok dances in the streets. They call speech an emergency. They call misinformation an emergency. They would absolutely call the weather an emergency to control your life. So yes, we do need limits. I hate to say it, but we do. But here's the difference. Trump used tariffs to protect America. Leftists would use them to punish America. Trump's tariffs, well, it reduces the dependency on China. It rebuilds American manufacturing. It strengthens our industrial base. It protects workers and wages. Democrats would use the power to, crush energy production, force electric vehicle mandates, destroy the American middle class. Same tools, different goals, worlds apart. And Trump understands what this case really is. On Truth Social, he said, quote, this case is literally life or death for our country. A victory means financial and national security for America. A means we will be taken advantage of again. A loss means that. And look, Trump is right. And he's been right for about 35 years, for decades. China stole our manufacturing. Mexico exploited our wage gaps. The World Trade Organization favored foreign nations over us. I mean, hell, Wall Street got rich while American workers got hollowed out. Trump was the first president since Reagan, patriots, who actually put America first in trade. And because of that, the global elite, these multinational corporations and foreign governments all want tariffs gone. This case is not about legal language. It's not about like this technical authority stuff. It's about whether America still controls its own economic destiny. And that's the question. Who actually controls the power? Who wants the power? If Trump wins, America keeps leverage. China loses power. American workers gain strength. But if Trump loses, globalism wins, Wall Street wins, and, well, China wins. This is the whole ball game, and the Supreme Court knows it. We're going to keep watching this one because there's going to be a lot of cases that are getting rulings, and we got to know what's going on. Pretty bonkers stuff. Pretty bonkers. But hopefully you guys feel like you learned something today. Brad's doing a little bit more show prep now, going, oh, this show's a little bit different. A little bit more informative from this guy all of a sudden. Not just reactionary commentary. I think we have a little bit different show coming up here next year because I think the people are liking what they're hearing. All right. Well, what we have next year is Mamdani, Shmomani, Fee-Fi, Bobani, the knucklehead. And as you know, the now elected mayor of New York City. Ooh. One of the biggest questions has become what happens to immigration enforcement in that city? It's a good question because remember, Mamdani didn't run on free buses. He didn't just run on that or free children and a socialist fantasy of economics. He didn't just run on those things. He did, but there's more. He also campaigned, if you recall, this is the one that's not being talked a lot about, on making New York an even stronger sanctuary city, meaning illegal immigrants including criminal offenders, are shielded from federal immigration enforcement. Well, how does that all even play out? Well, here's the part Mamdani and progressive activists don't want you to hear. Tom Homan has come out and said ICE is not backing down. Trump's borders are, baby. And he said this week that, quote, operations will continue. In other words, ICE will keep coming. Federal immigration law is federal. Sanctuary status does not override federal jurisdiction. It's this language that makes Democrats and these psycho lefties, it makes them feel better about themselves. Well, why aren't we sanctuary? We should just be sanctuary. Yeah, that's not the law. It's not how things work. Read any middle school textbook about civics and government. Please. Because you sound stupid. And I don't want you to sound stupid. We should be sanctuary. It doesn't mean anything. We're a sanctuary state. It just makes you feel better because you have to alter reality. And we talked about this yesterday. There's a constant theme of people having to alter reality in their own mind to make them feel comfort and have security. That's what this is all about, folks. These people can't handle stress. They can't handle obstruction. They can't handle obstacles in their life. And so rather than overcoming the obstacle, we're just going to pretend like it never happened. That obstacle's not there. They're basically running their life as Helen Keller on a metaphorical basis. Helen Keller couldn't see or hear. That's basically how they pretend their life. I don't see that obstacle and I don't hear that obstacle, but I'm going to keep trudging through life. And if you want to put an obstacle in front of me, I'm going to delete you. And what's their obstacles that get put in front of them? Well, life, of course, but also conservative ideas and thoughts that have common sense, and they don't want to deal with common sense. It's a rough analogy, but it still works and plays out. Now, here's the problem. And this is where things get a little dangerous for actual citizens living in New York. When sanctuary mayors refuse to let ICE coordinate with city jails, violent criminals don't get deported straight from jail. Instead, they're released where? Now, we know the answer. Oh, boy, do we, because people, this happens, people get apprehended about 42 times and just are what? Released into the city. Yes, sir. And ICE has to go find them out in the community. So let me spell this out if that doesn't make sense. Instead of removing an illegal immigrant, rapist, from like Rikers, the moment he finishes his sentence, the city releases him onto the streets, where ICE has to then track him down in neighborhoods, apartment buildings, playground, and workplaces. That ain't compassion, and that sure as heck ain't progress. That is a state-sponsored endangerment of citizens, and we've talked about it at length here on the show. And please, it's not that Democrats don't care. They love this stuff, man. They're all about allowing criminals on the streets. How do we know that? We've seen it. You can look at the mug shots, man. Deleting people left and right. It's not hypocritical. This is exactly what has been happening in New York City for years under the sanctuary system. Illegal immigrant assault someone. Okay? They're arrested. Then they're put in jail. ICE requests to detain them. The city refuses. The criminal is then released, disappears into the city. ICE is forced to conduct neighborhood raids. Public risk skyrockets. This is what Mamdani calls protecting immigrant communities. The guy's an idiot. Because this is not protecting criminals, these communities. No, this is protecting criminals at the expense of Americans. So Tom Homan has been shouting this for years, by the way. He has testified under oath about new sanctuary policies led directly to more sexual assaults, more burglaries, more drug trafficking, and more murders. And rather than talking about the main issue, you will get Democrats in the chat that want to obfuscate this idea, and they want to allow this to happen. And what they do is they never focus on the actual problem. They focus on all the externalities, basically the outliers that have nothing to do with the problem. Oh, what about Trump? Oh, what about Trump? Yeah, Trump, this isn't Trump. This is your problem that you've created for this country because you allowed this to happen. And now that when somebody's trying to solve the actual problem, they're the bad guy. So the people that create the problems are the good guys. The guys that try to solve the problems are the bad guys. Gotcha. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And by the way, enforcing the law that was on the books, there's no laws being broken here. The only laws being broken are by Democrats shielding these little aliens that are now taking from the system and committing crimes. Those are the ones that are breaking the law. But, Donald Trump, Cheeto, orange, bad man, bad. Terrible guy for trying to keep communities safe. And by the way, doing exactly what the American people voted for him to do. Let's throw that one in there. Oh, the guy's authoritarian. He's not doing the will of the American people. No, he won the popular vote. Yeah. Won a lot. And by the way, probably would have won a lot more of the popular vote if we didn't have illegals voting. Now, the guy's doing exactly what the American people voted for. Both Democrat and Republican, I hate to tell you. But, these lefties can't face the polls. They can't just agree with it. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, I'll show you a poll from a leftist outlet. Oh, wow. Stop traffic. Good thing that we show all the polls from CNN in a favor of what we're saying. Show the video clips on here. Now with Mamdani in power, we will see more criminal releases, by the way. You'll get more ICE raids in neighborhoods instead of secure facilities. More risk to ICE agents. Like the threats have skyrocketed into the thousands of %. More risk for the public. And more victims whose names the media will quietly bury. Because when sanctuary laws block cooperation, federal enforcement doesn't stop. It just happens near to everyday people. And this is insanity of progressive governance. They say they want fewer immigration raids. They say they want fewer deportations, fewer confrontations. Yet the policies for ICE to conduct operations in more unpredictable, more dangerous, and more public situations. Gotcha. No, that makes a lot of sense. No, it's insanity. It doesn't make any sense at all. But when they pretzel themselves in the, altering reality, like a man become a woman, a woman can become a man, well, things all of a sudden make sense to them. It's a perfect example of ideology over reality is what's happening. Mamdani supporters are going to learn very quickly that slogans like abolish ICE sound cool on TikTok, but they collapse the second they crash into real crime happening to real people in real neighborhoods. New York City just voted for chaos. ICE is still coming. And we're going to see what Tom Homan does over there in New York City. We'll see. But it's not where it needs to be. A lot of people are being harmed over there in Democrat-ran cities and Republican-ran cities because Democrats didn't want to enforce the laws, meaning keeping the border secure. Well, we also have Proposition 50 in California, and it wasn't just some local ballot tweak, man. This is the opening shot in what is shaping up to be the biggest nationwide redistricting battle in decades. And the stakes are higher here, guys, because control of the House of Representatives in 2026 and beyond is what's taking place here. So here's what just happened. As many of you know, California passed Prop 50. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. And it was by a wide margin. It was crazy. Roughly 65% of the votes were yes. And Prop 50 gives Democrats permission to redraw up to 5 congressional districts to favor their party. And by the way, it's not like speculation or like me just throwing in my interpretation. That's like its stated purpose. The ballot language literally said the change was in response to the Republican-led redistricting in Texas. I live here in California. I saw it with my own eyes. This is not about fairness. It's not about this representation that they love to push. It's about raw political power, man. And California Democrats are admitting it. They're saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, Nancy Pelosi literally bragged about it online. Nancy Pelosi said online, quote, if Texas had blocked or backed off, California would have backed off as well. But Trump insisted on Texas starting this fight. So California will meet this moment and win big. Look, they won. And they did win big. She was not wrong. Her dentures almost fell out of shock, but she was not wrong. She always looked shocked. I know her face is, woof. This is not democracy. This is revenge politics wrapped in patriotic language. But here's where things are getting a little bit messy and the national fight begins. This is the part that I'm adding in here now. This is the part where we take from what we learned yesterday, which I just did a recap, and attach it to today. This triggers redistricting wars across the country. Now, Republican-led states aren't just going to sit back. States like Missouri, North Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana have already stated and are preparing for aggressive redistricting moves of their own, which means California may gain 5 seats, but other states could gain more Republican seats. And this is going to court everywhere, man. And the final map of the House of Representatives may be not settled, until deep in the 2026 campaign. And here's where things get even more interesting because the Californian Republican Party just filed a federal lawsuit against Prop 50. And they are arguing that Prop 50 is racial gerrymandering, which is unconstitutional. Even though we've broken down gerrymandering that the Democrat Party has been doing that has limited the white vote in favor of the black vote. And we broke that down here at length on the show. It's actually always been unconstitutional racial gerrymandering, but the Democrats have been allowed to do it anyways. If that lawsuit climbs the system, and it likely will, by the way, it would become a federal precedent affecting redistricting nationwide. So while Democrats think they just secured 5 seats, they may have accidentally opened the door to striking down their own gerrymandering methods nationally. I think Donald Trump is wrong by saying the tariffs is the biggest Supreme Court case in 100 years. I think if this makes it to the Supreme Court, this right here is the biggest Supreme Court case in 100 years, in my opinion, because it would destroy the Democrat Party. And I'm using that word very much in the literal sense. They're donezo as that party. Their whole ball game, their whole political strategy that they've used for decades, man, is gone. See you later. Never probably going to win again. This is huge. So Democrats think they just secured all this stuff, but no. They might have just opened the door for their whole scheme to be destroyed. And then there's Louisiana. Louisiana is in the front of the Supreme Court right now. This week, I believe it's this week, now arguing to eliminate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Listen here. This is what I was talking about. The section that forces map makers to draw districts based on racial criteria. In Section 2, and if it's weakened or overturned, states in the South will no longer be forced to create heavily Democrat-leaning race-mandated districts. And that could shift 6 to 12 seats toward Republicans in the Deep South alone. Meaning, if California adds 5 Democratic seats, Louisiana's court win could hand Republicans more seats than California just created. In other words, Democrats may have fired the first shot, but the war is something that they can't win. Because here's the political reality the media won't say out loud. Democrats control fewer states than Republicans do. Republicans control more state legislature and more governorships. So if redistricting becomes a state-by-state street fight, Republicans hold the advantage, baby. Democrats open the door. Republicans are about to walk through it. And California, once again, may have triggered a reaction that backfires nationally. This is not just a California story. We say it always starts here, but this is a 2026 House majority on the battlefield right now. And the next 18 months are about to say everything about what's going to be taking place here in the future. Woo. That is it. That I think that one's the one we want to look out for, Patriots. That's the big boy. That's the big boy. If you haven't already, please hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying what you're hearing and seeing. We do a morning show each and every morning, 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Would love for you to check out what we got going on. Let's do a little bit of a palate cleanser before we jump into more news articles here and more breakdown. That was the important stuff that we wanted you to get through today, so you know what's happening, the big headlines of the political landscape around the country. Well, we have the Kansas Attorney General here has charged Coldwater Mayor Jose Ceballos for voting illegally as a non-citizen. Huh. But guys, I was told by CNN, MSNBC, the nice ladies on The View, that this wasn't happening.
Water, accused of election fraud. The charges come hours after he secured a second term in office. Attorney General Chris Kobach charged Mayor Jose Joe Ceballos with 6 felonies, 3 counts each of voting without being qualified and election perjury. Kobach claims Ceballos is lawfully living in the U.S., but is a citizen of Mexico, making him ineligible to vote. The AG alleges the mayor illegally cast ballots in the August 2024 primary and November 2022 and 2023 general elections.
In large part, our system right now is based on trust. Trust that when the person signed the registration or signs the poll books saying that he's a qualified elector or that he is a United States citizen, that the person is telling the truth.
We reached out to Mayor Ceballos for comment, but have not heard back yet. The Coldwater City Council, though, released a statement on social media saying the mayor called them in for a special meeting over the noon hour to, quote, discuss recent events that have transpired with the Kansas Attorney General's office. While the recent allegations involving the mayor are understandably concerning, we will allow the proper legal process to take its course before making any further comments, unquote. Ceballos is expected to be in court for his first appearance on December 3rd.
Isn't that crazy? Remember that school superintendent? The dude was an illegal. That dude's a superintendent of a school system. I mean, the stuff that's happening here with this immigration is just absolutely bonkers. And I have another one for you here. So, Congressman, you are deliberately misrepresenting the facts here. This is a post from Homeland Security. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare and were only at this location because the female illegal alien fled inside. So I'm going to play this for you, and then we're going to kind of break it down a little bit. But this is pretty bonkers. It's about, if you're curious, an illegal immigrant attempts to hide from ICE in a Chicago daycare. It's kind of like how Hamas loves to hide behind their children and love to hide behind, medically sick people in hospitals. And then when, the Israelis go in and apprehend the terrorist because he's a terrorist, oh my God, how could they go into a hospital and take the guy? How about you don't endanger children? That would be nice, right? How about we don't do that? You can hear her screaming from across the street. Jeez. Talk about resisting arrest, huh? You notice that they just can't follow? I don't know what it is with people getting arrested, but they just can't follow the rules. And then when their face gets grounded into the pavement and they're bloody, they're like, "How could you? I'm not resisting." I don't know why he's not detaining her. You have no idea what she has on her. That's crazy. This cop is putting his life in danger, man. All right, so let's see what this is all about here. Let's see. Maybe you guys might have heard this already. Bradley has not. What we have here is another example of a migrant crisis turning into pure insanity thanks to sanctuary policies and politicians who care more about illegal immigrants than the safety and the stability of American communities. So this time it happened in Chicago, a sanctuary city, Democrat controlled for generations, by the way, like over 50 years, where the message has been loud and clear. If you're here illegally, don't worry about it. The city will protect you. Even if you break the law, they will protect you. Well, yesterday, as you just saw, reality came crashing in. An illegal immigrant from Colombia tried to hide from ICE inside a daycare center. Yes, a daycare center. A place where toddlers, teachers, and parents just try to get through the day. But here's what happened. As you saw, ICE agents attempted a lawful stop on a vehicle, which is right in front of you right there. The driver refused to pull over, which no shock now after seeing her try to get arrested. She didn't want to listen, leading to a pursuit. So let's just pause right there, because a lot of these Democrats in the chat, and there have been some more and more last few days, are going to be like, how could they treat this lady? How could they treat her like that? Let's see. There was an attempted lawful stop on a vehicle. She refused to pull over, and then she fled from the police, leading to a pursuit. But don't worry, these are all good people. They're all law-abiding citizens. They want to assimilate to this country. They want to follow our laws, folks. They want to make this country better. But yet they're leading people into a pursuit. By the way, putting the community at risk. The illegal immigrant being targeted jumped out, and then she ran. She ran from the police, not just through her vehicle, but now on foot. And she went into this immersion early learning center. It's a Spanish immersion learning center, which is a daycare and a shopping plaza, basically. The DHS says ICE did not go in to raid the daycare. They followed her because she ran inside. So the daycare has nothing to do with it. So now, because the media love to spin this, they're going to say, oh, look at that. You guys said you weren't targeting schools. Now Trump's going into daycares, ripping mothers from their child's arms. Because they're stupid. They're actually stupid people that can't go research this stuff, and they see a headline and go, oh, that's just unbelievable. I knew Orange Cheeto bad, man. He's so bad, isn't he? Let's doing all this stuff. Because they're stupid. And I'm dead serious. Some of these people are really, really, really stupid. And they know they are too. The illegal immigrant being targeted, jumped out and ran into the daycare. And ICE went after her in the daycare because she's fleeing from the police, which you can't do. So they followed her because she ran inside. And they arrested her, as you saw, not inside the classroom, not in front of children, not storming a school like the left is claiming. They did it outside. But that didn't stop Democrat Representative Mike Quigley from running straight to X to a post, dramatic and completely false claim saying ICE snatched, quote, you're going to love this. This is a real thing, by the way. This Democrat representative went on X and said, quote, ICE snatched a preschool teacher without a warrant in front of children. Isn't that nuts? Right here. Right here. Isn't that crazy? Where's it at? My bad. Right here. There's the receipts, man. This is when DHS did something we don't see often. They called him out, which is what you get right here from Homeland Security. Congressman, you are deliberately misrepresenting the facts. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare and were only at this location because the female illegal alien fled inside. Translation, stop lying. Stop misleading the public. Stop manufacturing outrage. I was told cheap fakes, deep fakes from Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah, no, I was told we were just all making stuff up. I was told misinformation, and in this case, I would say this disinformation was bad, to the point where Joe Biden's administration wanted to put forth a ministry of truth headed by DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas to tell you what was right and what was wrong, what was truth, what was false, what was misinformation, disinformation. That's what I was told the Democrats wanted to do. But they weren't authoritarian in wanting to do that, were they? No, of course they were. They weren't authoritarian when Obama went after the Tea Party people through the utilization of the IRS. That wasn't authoritarian. Joe Biden is not authoritarian for shutting down your churches and arresting pastors and you and congregation members for wanting to go to your churches, utilizing your First Amendment right. No. That wasn't authoritarian. It wasn't authoritarian of the Black Lives Matter movement, working in conjunction with the Biden administration, working in conjunction with the FBI, as well as the DOJ and other administration, all these three-letter agencies, the three-letter apparatuses of the government to allow them to, I don't know, obfuscate what was going on during COVID and just burn down our cities. That wasn't authoritarian, was it? Oh, no. It's not authoritarian that Joe Biden did all these crazy things and he got away with it. But no, he's the most popular president in American history is what we're told. Yeah, no, these guys, he's sharp as a tack. Yeah, he works out. We were told by Joy Behar of The View, the guy works out every morning. It's incredible what Joey can do. So here's the part the media is not highlighting in this whole thing. The woman crossed the border illegally in 2023. Her children were smuggled in last month. When arrested, she lied about her identity and she pretended she didn't even know the man driving the car, who later she admitted she didn't know. Oh, nobody's shocked here. I wouldn't be surprised if a pound of cocaine fell out of her ass. I wouldn't. Hand to God. And you know what she'd probably say? That's not mine. I don't know how that got there. Really, a pound of cocaine shoved up your tushy. Huh. Fascinating. So this wasn't a mom taking her child to preschool. She wasn't a teacher. She wasn't a neighborhood community member or an innocent migrant just seeking a better life. Nope. This was an illegal border crosser using smugglers, attempting to flee law enforcement, endangering children by running into a school facility to hide. And the left wants to make her the victim. Give me a break. This entire situation was created because sanctuary city policies refused to cooperate with ICE. This is what Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, all of them do. Criminal illegal aliens are arrested. ICE files a detainer asking to pick them up. The city refuses and releases them back in the community, which we covered mere minutes ago. ICE is forced to hunt them down in public, like you just saw, in neighborhoods, near schools and businesses. And the left screams, why is ICE in our communities? Because they're stupid. They are. Because you forced them to be, you idiots. That's why. This is the exact dynamic that Tom Homan just described when talking about New York, which we got into earlier. Because they're knuckleheads. Man, it's almost like, how do you deal with, how do you, in your own life, how do you deal with the stupid stuff? Do you know? Like, how do you talk to somebody that's just really, really stupid? You don't. That's why it's not worth debating some of these people. You have to understand, and I'm not, again, I'm not a savant. I'm not better than anybody. But I am able usually to track somebody's logic. And what I found is either they're being disingenuous in these debates, Meaning they just want to win the debate, which I get is that's actually the whole purpose of it. It's not to communicate, not to come to common ground, not to figure out solutions, none of that stuff. It's just to lie in some cases, or they're too stupid and they don't know a multivariate analysis, kind of like what took place yesterday morning with that guy that was like, well, why is it the 7 most states are poor and they're conservative? It's like, well, they're Republican states. They're not conservative states. That's the first part you got wrong. The second one is you don't compare state to states. You try not to do that. You'd want to do cities to cities because that's more of a representation of what's going on in terms of policies actually affecting it. And third, the guy couldn't understand why I utilized the Civil War in a multivariate analysis as an example of one of the many that I gave him with the Reconstructionist period, that through what happened in the Civil War, because you're predominantly talking about the southern states that are the poor red states in his own thinking, that it was those states that were damaged by Democratic policies going back to the Civil War. And because they had to reconstruct themselves after the Civil War, because they got obliterated by the North, that agricultural movement that took place in the Reconstructionist period wasn't enabling them to expand and grow economically to the extent that the Northerners were able to do, which is why you get New York City, you get Silicon Valley. I understand that's on the West, but you understand what I mean in terms of the tech industry. So they're vastly two different sectors taking place in the country, but he's too stupid to be able to make those connections. And I legitimately don't have enough time to break down to the core. This is why I'm using this one variable in a multivariate analysis to make the case in terms of local economies that you would want to look at city to city in terms of what policies, what was the geography of the time, how does 150 years of that geography and those types of policies that the Democrat Party put in place thereafter to oppress people of color, to not allow people to work to the extent of manufacturing and agriculture and bringing in different industries into that southern states to compete with the Northerners of the time for 150 years. Then you get into the 1960s, the 1980s, the 1990s. Finally start seeing a little bit more growth over there. You can't break this stuff down. There you go. Yes, Chris said it perfectly. Thank you, Chris. You're trying to reason with unreasonable people and also idiots. And if you notice, that's why I brought up the gender pay gap, because they go, well, women get paid less than men. Because you're doing a univariate analysis, you nut job. You're not doing a multivariate analysis. Once you do a multivariate analysis, what you turn out is women actually get paid more than men. Oh, funny how that works out. It's so bonkers. But like you said, you can't break this stuff down to them. It's everything you do yourself, by the way. And I'm not even saying he's not wrong in saying that it's the 7 states that might be the poorest, but they do the same thing with crime, right? We saw this with Whoopi Goldberg. She goes, well, the red states have the most crime that's happening. Yes, but if you zoom in, it's the Democratic cities in those red states, you idiot, that have the most crime. And yes, I'm using harsh language. They are idiots. It is. What else would you call them? If they're not even able to see that, what would you call them? Rational? Savants? Prodigies? Smart? No, none of it. And by the way, if you took that same logic, which is why I brought it up yesterday with the crime in the red states, because it's the blue cities that cause the crime, is that, if you looked at the poorest cities in the country, just want to point this out, which is why I said it, but we don't have enough time to break everything down for that guy. Do you guys think it's the Democrat-ran cities that are the poorest in totality, or do you think it's Republican? You know the answer. It's Democrat. But they don't want to challenge their own beliefs. I'm not saying there aren't poor Republican areas. I've always said there's a lot of Republicans that are on SNAP that shouldn't be. But they're not conservatives. They're Republicans. They might think they're conservative. No, they're not. Conservative is an ideology. Conservative is a movement. Conservatism says that you don't go on SNAP and EBTs and food stamps and all that stuff. No, conservatism is you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you grind your ass off, you work your ass off to the extent that you run your body into the ground, and you grind and you get ahead. You don't rely on other people for anything. And if you need to rely on other people for anything, you start with your family. Then you go to your neighborhood. Then you go to your local mayor, city councilman, woman. Then you go to your state. Then you go to the federal government. You start with the federal government, work your way down. It's not how that works, but that's here nor there. All righty. My voice sounds like Alex Jones. My voice sounds like I'm Alex Jones. I want to get to this. Donald Trump has announced a major decision on nuclear weapons. So this broke yesterday. Donald Trump is basically starting nuclear war. No, I'm kidding. He did make one of the most consequential national security announcements, though, in decades. I will say that. So the legacy media here is trying to twist this whole announcement into Donald Trump being reckless. Oh, it's such a reckless move. And when in reality, this is just merely strategic. It is necessary, and I would say long overdue. So Trump announced that the United States will resume and increase nuclear weapons testing, not to start a new arms race, but to respond to one that has already been happening without us. And he posted this on Truth Social. He said, quote, "The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. This was accomplished, including a complete update and renovation of existing weapons during my first term. Because of other countries' testing programs, I have instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis." So let's just pause on that. Trump renovated and modernized the U.S. nuclear arsenal in his first term. Barack Obama didn't do that. Neither did Joe Biden. Trump did. Now, in a video statement, he added, quote, "Because of the tremendous destructive power, I hated to do it, but I really had no choice. Russia is second in line and China is a distant third, but will be even within 5 years." So meaning they're catching up to us. Now, this is key because China is racing to close the gap. And this nuclear arsenal that they have is expanding faster than in any time in the Communist Party's history. Meanwhile, Russia has been testing hypersonic next generation warheads, delivering systems, and pretending they're abiding by global treaties, which I will never believe the Russians or the Chinese. Tucker Carlson will, though, and so will Nick Fuentes for some ungodly reason. Not sure why. Trump said on 60 Minutes over the weekend, "Russia's testing nuclear weapons and China's testing them too. You don't know about it, but we're an open society. We talk about it. They don't." And he's right. China doesn't tell the world when it does ballistic missile drills in Xinjiang. Russia doesn't submit testing logs to the United Nations before detonating underground devices in their regions. Meanwhile, the United States is the only superpower trying to follow the rules, is expected to sit still and fall behind. So let's be clear on this. Deterrence only works when your enemies believe your weapons actually work. If the United States stops testing, stops modernizing, stops proving capabilities, the message we send to Moscow, Beijing, Tehran, Pyongyang is, we're hoping you don't call out our bluff. So this is how it starts. And that's why I've always said this. And I said it when Trump kept saying, well, don't do that. Oh, I'm going to blow you up. It's going to be worse than Armageddon. And I said, you need to just go do something is what you need to do. You need to start dropping bombs. And that's why I said the Iranian bomb, those strikes. Now Donald Trump knows that his enemies know he ain't messing around. Donald Trump knows that people ain't going to try to call him on his bluff because the Iranians tried that. And, we had the B-2s flying in hot. So let them test, because here's the difference. When Russia tests their nuclear weapons, it's to threaten and intimidate its neighbors. When China threatens test their weapons, it's to prepare for Taiwan, which we already know. When North Korea tests their weapons, well, that's just all propaganda. Let's be fair. Yeah. North Korea testing a weapon is them launching a soda can in the air. That's what they do, if they could find a soda can. When America tests, can you imagine? Little Kim Jong-un, ooh, little fat boy, cool soda can in the air. Ooh, what is that 1 liter soda Coca-Cola? You remember when a kid in like 5th grade when you had to make those rockets out of soda cans or the soda bottles? You know what I mean? You put like an Altoid in there, it's like, poof. That's North Korea for you. Bunch of losers. But don't worry, communism's so good. It's so good that nobody wants to go and live there. But they want communism, socialism in New York City. What a bunch of idiots. So good. It's so good I would never live there. Fucking idiots, dude. I'm sorry. That's what I find hilarious is sometimes I do think people are so stupid that I find it comedic. It's like a really stupid joke. Those are sometimes the best ones. Well, it's a really stupid joke that these people want to push communism, socialism here when it's never been cheaper to go to North Korea and live there. I'll tell you what, it's never been cheaper. We know why they don't want to. Because they don't actually believe in what they say. That's why. I do. See, whenever I teach finances, I teach Dave Ramsey, I actually follow what I say. I really do. Not in totality. Like, for example, if like I say read the Bible or something like that, I might drop the ball on that one. You know what I mean? Thank God. Shout out to Jeff. Sends me scripture through TikTok every single morning, every single day. Thank you, Jeff, by the way. See, some people think I don't. I'm not saying Jeff thinks this, but some people think I don't read my emails. Some people, because I don't respond all the time. I see everything. I see your messages on X. I see your notifications that you send me on X. I see your emails that you send me, every single one. I see the messages you send me through TikTok. I see it all. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Soda bottles in North Korea. You're right. Well, Trump doesn't want nuclear war, folks. What he wants here is America to be strong and that war never begins. Weakness, it turns out, looking at Joe Biden, provokes aggression. Strength, like we see through Donald Trump, prevents war. And that's why the guy solved 8 of them. That's the Reagan doctrine. That's peace through strength that we saw from Trump. And Trump understands it. That's why he's doing it. But Biden never did. And the bottom line to this whole thing is, for 4 years under Trump, Russia did not invade Ukraine. He keeps saying that, and he's right. China did not move on Taiwan. Iran did not attack shipping lanes. North Korea did not test ICBMs. They feared American power, the muscle, baby. They respected America, the resolve that we have. They didn't fear Biden, though, but they remembered Trump. This nuclear testing decision isn't reckless. It's just reestablishing American deterrence before the world slides into something far, far worse. And that's called leadership, baby. And he's the best president in modern history. And we just triggered a bunch of leftists. They don't like the fact that their guy sucked and our guy's great. Their guy drools into a drip tray wearing a bicycle helmet backwards. Our guy's getting shit done. Their guy falls up a flight of stairs, hits a golf ball backwards, looked for dead people in the crowd, was tapping into the spiritual realm so hard that not only did he see dead people and was looking for them in the crowd, he was conversing with dead people that had been gone and passed on for 40 years, 4 decades. This guy fumbled through his words, fought with his teleprompter each and every day. That was their guy. Made disastrous policies, foreign policy that led to multiple wars, led to a movement of terrorism that we've never seen since 9/11. That's according to Christopher Wray of the FBI, his own FBI director, and a lot more bad stuff. The most immigration this country's ever seen, broke record after record, has more medals in terms of records than anybody out there on this planet. And that's their guy. And they can't handle that Donald Trump is our guy. A guy that's a self-made billionaire. A guy that built skyscrapers in New York City. The guy that's making America great again. Everybody's scared of him, and rightfully so, because he'll kick your ass. And I love that about him. He's unapologetic. He is who he is. And this is a guy that loves America and will go down as one, if not the greatest president in American history, so long as I'm on this earth. It's true. They don't like truth, you guys, because truth is reality. And whenever that truth is brought to their face and they don't want to face it, they have to change reality. And if you don't change and you start speaking falsehoods on behalf of what they're saying, if you don't do that, they'll delete you. That's what they don't like about him. He speaks the truth. You know who doesn't like truth? Evil. Evil doesn't like truth. Evil likes death. Evil likes destruction. Evil likes to divide. And that's why you get that from the leftist ideology. It's all built about division. Diversity is our strength. Yeah. You know who also said that in scriptures? The devil. The devil said that. And you want to know something? Didn't work out so well for him, did it? Because the devil was kicked out. I don't want to be kicked out of heaven. I like heaven. I like God. I like Jesus. I love them. I don't think division is a good thing. Unity. Unity is what we need. We are one in this country. We're American. Damn, this was a good podcast today, wasn't it? Did y'all hit that like button? All right. Well, let's just see. Let's see if we can do let's do a palate cleanser. Palate cleanser before we move on to dessert. I don't know if I have a Scott Jennings clip. I really wish I did. Let me see if I could get Scott in here. If not, Okay, well, let's do this. It's not exactly Scott, but it's something rare. CNN calls out Hakeem Jeffries for lying about Democrat shutdown.
Mr. Leader, you guys are voting no on opening the government, not Republicans. I know you're asking for specific things, and it's much more complicated than that. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Hold on a second, Dana, because let's just be clear about that.
Okay.
American people clearly understand who's responsible for shutting down the government.
Yeah, but you said they shut down the government.
They did shut down the government. They have the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
Mr. Leader,
hold on a second. I came out there the third. I really gave it to him. I was throwing the left and the right. You said this. That's not what took place. I'm Mike Tyson. I'm Hakeem Jeffries. No, they got the House, the Senate, the exec. They got everything. I was using 8-ounce gloves. We said in contract it was 10-ounce gloves, and I was really giving it to him. I was doing the sock and bop 'em. Hold on. Dude, I can never listen to Hakeem Jeffries ever again now that I know he sounds like Mike Tyson every freaking time. Oh, I'm playing it again. I'm sorry. I need it. This is for me. Mostly for me. Sorry, indulge me for a second.
Mr. Leader, you guys are voting no on opening the government, not Republicans. I know you're asking for specific things, and it's much more complicated than that. We'll get to that in 1 second.
Hold on a second, Dana, because let's just be clear about that. American people clearly understand who's responsible for shutting down the government.
Yeah, but you said they shut down the government.
They did shut down the government. They have the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
Sometimes it's just so blatant that even CNN's like, yeah, bro, that we can't spin that one. There's no, it's just so, it's like saying the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You can't spin it. It's just what happens. It's just legit. You know, Dana, what we need to tell them is a bunch of lies here on CNN. I thought you had my back here. Now I feel like it's 3v1. We need to tell the American people really what happened. I'm Mike Tyson. I'll eat your children. Okay. Well, that's the end of today's episode. We have, I appreciate that, Dan. Thank you. Says great job, Brad. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Well, thanks for always tuning in and listening. Let's do a quick survey here real quick. How you guys liking a little bit of the new format? You guys think you like it a little bit more informative? Is that okay? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Yes, you're good with it. No, you're not. Because again, even though we're a couple outs from the new year, a couple months out, we're trying to do a little bit of stuff here to see like a little bit of a dynamic of the show. And we can't always keep it the exact same. We always want to upgrade. I want to see if you're cool with this upgrade. If you're not, mind you, we usually get around 20 to 40, I mean, more than that, maybe 30,000 listens a month, 30, 40,000. I want to know what the Patriots want to hear. And I truthfully like podcasts that are more informative. And we're known kind of for reactionary commentary, but I've always enjoyed the deeper part of it. And we'll still have reactionary commentary going over clips. It's not like it wouldn't be included in the show, but people come to learn something and hear about the news and get a little bit more something deeper out of it. And yeah, it's it takes more work and prepping and scripting it out and doing a little bit more research, but I enjoy that. I'm new, so I don't know any different. Hey, what's up, Lisa? Well, that's okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for letting us know you're new. We always want new people to let us know, so we give them a shout in the chat. That's so cool. Thanks for hanging out with us. Heck yeah. Shout out to Lisa in the chat. Love that. Let me look over here at It's Great Better. Thanks, Jerry. Jerry, you still getting that coffee, brother? Appreciate you, Jerry. Also, Jerry, I do get your donos through, if this is the right Jerry, through the website. Thank you. Why do conservatives have a double standard for imported labor? Not sure. That was a question that should have been asked a while ago. But it's always, again, maybe stop asking questions about conservatives. Start asking questions about Democrats. Let's do that. Yeah, welcome to folks. Oh, I knew Pat was in here. Pat, you lurker, you weirdo. Pat's a hard worker. Literally, the guy grinds his ass off. Love it. Alrighty. Well, everybody seems to be enjoying it. If you don't enjoy it, well, let me know. And we could kind of cater. It's your guys' show just as much as mine. We'll be back here later today, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It is only for Dark MAGA. We have some people, going in and getting some surgeries done. They're taking care of their family members. So make sure you're praying for them. Those are patriots. They're part of our community here that are about to have some surgery in the next day or two. And we want to make sure everybody is taken care of and power of prayer is effective. Make sure you read your scriptures. Make sure you read your Bible. Pray to your Lord and Savior. And we'll be back here at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Dark MAGA on Rumble Premium only. Take care, Patriots.